I'm Leslie Cornwell. This next section of the home birth midwifery course has to do with what size of practice do you want. Most of the midwives I talk to across the country are leaning towards, I want a small solo practice, and then I will get a amazing collaborating midwife to cover my vacation and sick time. And that's a way you can do it. That's the traditional way I have seen midwives get started. But I want to challenge you to see if the model with 2 to 3 midwives, potentially 4 to 6 midwives, makes financial sense, makes sense for your short-term goals and values for your practice. Whenever a midwife talks about doing small solo starting out, you tend to work more hours, you tend to do more of the things with the clinical care and less with running the business. And it gets hard, it catches up with you. So if you can have a team of support for covering vacations and covering that work-life balance, really makes a difference with the success of you and preventing burnout and offering your services. Because as you grow and women, say you have 4 ladies a month and now all of a sudden 9 months from now you have 8 ladies a month, you're gonna have to train a staff member while you're compensating for that extra load. And so it causes a lot of stress, it causes a lot of pressure. So if you can have a 2 to 3 midwife practice from the beginning that's financially supported, you've done a market analysis, there's enough women to fit the numbers to cover what you want to provide, it's helpful. But you just have to look at your mission, you have to look at your values, and what do you want each midwife to do, especially if you're starting at the beginning and there's not as much to do in the office or women to see. Those midwives can help you with projects, they can help you with policies. They're typically paid a salary and you can delegate each day some of these things that just make time and research part of your business that you would have been doing. So there's benefits to having a couple midwives, having that extra volume of revenue coming in from additional families being able to deliver, that you can now hire an office manager sooner. You can get that medical assistant. You can get a birth assistant that's doing more than just on call. She can be part-time and help with projects in the office, because now your volume of services supports those additional staff overhead costs. So just think about it. Starting small is fine. You're gonna need more planning in the backdrops. You're gonna need more time involved. But if we can help you creatively think of a business plan where you've got that, what you were dreaming of long-term started sooner, by creatively finding that capital, finding the numbers to make it work, you'll really appreciate it. So I do give in the template some pros and cons of comparing sizes of midwifery practices. I consider a small midwifery practice 1 to 3 midwives. A medium-sized practice is 4 to 6 midwives. And then a large practice is traditionally 6 or more. Everybody's a little different what they decide as a volume size. I like the 2 to 4 size midwifery practices. If somebody has a baby, goes on maternity leave for 3 months, when you have 3 midwives, splitting call 3 ways and then going to 2 is hard, but if there's that more of 4 midwife, you've got a little more cushion of support from each other. If you decide you want to have a baby, it's hard to ask a collaborating midwife in the community to back up your practice for 3 months. It just really is. But if you have 2 midwives, it's hard to ask your partner that signed up, that was on call 50% of the week, to be for 3 months on call 24/7. That's a lot to ask of your partner that you're joining your practice. So that's why I say having like that 2 to 4 midwife cushion, 3 to 4 is a little more ideal for having a work-life balance. So I give just samples of comparing sizes of midwifery practice. Take these numbers with a grain of salt. They're just a reference number to think about. Every location, what you need to lease and what you need to pay your midwives is going to be very different in one part of the country compared to another. Your overhead costs, your regulations, everywhere is going to be different. I just wanted to put some numbers just to give people a sense of what the initial startup cost would be for a small, medium, or large practice. What size office space you'd want to see women out of, what overhead operating costs is included, not just starting the practice. So I put in here, if you're doing a smaller 1 to 3 midwifery practice, you can do it out of the house, but driving everywhere takes time. Gas, I know right now, is cheap, but your time is valuable. valuable. You can see so many more women if they're coming to the office to see you and then just doing the 36-week visit at home to look over the supplies and prepare for the birth, and then the day 1 visit and the day 5 visit at home. In the beginning, maybe it's cheaper than leasing an office small space, or maybe there's already an established midwifery clinic or a practice. You can just say, can I use one of your office spaces one day a week, just to get started. You can get creative, but I would encourage you to not do a lot of home visits, just because that time for driving 10 minutes, half hour one way is a lot of time you could be spending being a midwife. Let the women drive to you for prenatal visits, and they're more than happy to do that. So for a size of a practice, I'd say 1,200 square foot is pretty reasonable. You get a couple exam rooms, one for designated prenatal visits, one designated for GYN visits, and then like a little small waiting area. It doesn't have to be big. Small and cozy works good for a midwifery practice. And I always like to have a little office space for myself, and definitely somewhere to stock your supplies and store things. As you grow and expand, you can look into more of an education room, a larger space. Once you start getting to that medium-sized practice, it's good to have a minimum of 4 exam rooms. They could be 2 prenatal rooms and 2 GYN rooms, because if you're going to get a higher volume, you're probably going to have 2 midwives seeing women at once. Your waiting room's going to have to be a little bit bigger. So look at the pros and cons of buying, leasing. Where do you want to be short-term and long-term? It comes back to your business plan and your goals. A large midwifery practice is totally possible. It's going to be larger upfront costs and larger initial operating costs you have to have a cushion for in your business plan and that funding you're getting. So if you have 7 midwives, you'll probably need around a space more like 4,000 or 5,000 square foot, because you're going to have 6-8 exam rooms. You're going to have a large waiting room. You're going to have space for all of your extra staff, your medical assistants, your break room, your place for your midwives to chart, all the offices and those things that'll add up in space. I estimated on here for a 1 to 3 midwife practice, you got to take this with a grain of salt, about $150,000 to get started. I've seen midwives that can get started in $30,000. Get your supplies, get your marketing, pay yourself as you go. It's possible, but to be successful and decrease your burnout, have a cushion of reserve. It's so important to have funds for that. I can't stress the importance of having emergency funds for the first 6 months to a year. Even if you're going to be small and living off your partner's income and not expecting to make any money, you still will have to pay your birth assistant. You will still have to get supplies. You will still have to have time to process insurance, get paperwork together, and you just have to exchange. Is it going to be your time, or is it going to be paying somebody else's time to do these things, part of starting up your practice? So I can't underestimate that there's surprise things you don't anticipate paying for. Have an extra cushion always at all times of 3 to 6 months reserve, because you just don't know, like with this pandemic happening, midwives so much aren't the issue. You have to have all these extra supplies you didn't anticipate for proper protective equipment, but more like restaurants I'm thinking about, and some of these stores that can't sell online, that just have so far with the lockdown closed down 2 months. Most businesses are going to go bankrupt because they can't plan and they can't have a reserve. They don't have one present for this severe of a fund deficit. So you just have to be creative. I'm not saying it'll 100% decrease your chances, but it'll reduce your anxiety. If there's opportunities that come up, maybe you're always saving every month a little reserve cushion of funds, and now you've got nice money for a down payment, and the perfect community center came up. If you are just living paycheck to paycheck, if you are just living bill to bill and breaking even every month, you're going to miss a lot of potential opportunities to grow and expand your business. And it causes a lot of extra stress. So if you can make your numbers in your budget add up where there's a cushion, a 10 to 15% cushion that can be put away every month as a just-in-case fund, just like personal assets, will really help you with your peace of mind for your business. So going back to the size of the practice, having that additional support. If you're a small practice, it's not as big of a deal. As you get into a medium or large size practice, it's really important to have your medical assistants, your birth assistants, your receptionists, receptionist, your biller, your marketer. All these people are so valuable in keeping your practice running smoothly, safely. You want to have someone that can train all your staff while you're doing births and prenatal visits. You have a new person come on to hire. You want an amazing office manager that can coordinate all that, keep you updated in meetings, help you with the training process, creating policies, ordering things. And it's hard if you're small and solo because you don't have the funds with your current practice volume to be able to hire those people, and you become the one doing everything. So yeah, as far as birth assistants, usually with a small practice, they're just on call. I rotated between a list of 10 to 15 birth assistants I had trained. Some were nurses, some were doulas, some had no experience in birth. And then they just rotated a call schedule. And then it was simple. I just paid them a flat rate, and it was an independent contractor. They took care of their taxes. And then as I started getting a medium to large size practice, it makes more sense financially to have a birth assistant that's part-time on call in the week and then also helps in your office, because the women are going to love to see day to day in their office setting prenatal visits the women that will be at their birth, and you'll get that better rapport and relationship, and the ones that are going to advocate for you within your staff are the ones that love birth. Your birth assistants, you're going to get very motivated employees if they can do part birth with you and part-time in your office. So medium and large size practices is definitely vital to have those people. You can't function. There's only so many hours in the day, and after you're done seeing people from 8 to 5, 9 to 5, you do not want to stay for 3 hours and worry about all the things that somebody else could have been doing for you throughout the day to help out. The volume of the practice, I said if you have 1 to 3 midwives, it's traditionally average 10 deliveries. So most of the time the budget adds up about 6 births per midwife. Every place is different. Everybody's overhead, depending if you have malpractice insurance, if you're doing insurance versus cash. But I'd say a good average is 6 per midwife. You can always make it less and more. If your midwives want to get paid a percentage and aren't as stressed about a salary, you can always decrease your volume. But I was totally transparent with my midwives. It's a numbers game. The more women we see, we decrease our quality, but we also make more money. So there's a balancing act of what you want to get paid and what services you do to make the revenue come in for the business. So a medium-sized practice will see more like 20, 25 women, and then a larger practice can easily be 35 plus, just depending on your size. So you have to figure out your mission, your value, where are the needs in the community, what systems you put in place, where do you want to be short-term and long-term with your practice.